Hey everybody, welcome to the Ordinary Legends podcast, where we're discussing ordinary people who became legends in the faith when they just said yes to God and they were obedient. This is episode number 4, and my name is Zach Jernigan, and I'm joined by Spencer Thomas.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a special guest today.
A very special guest.
Yes.
Oh no, they can already see him.
They can already see
no
him.
surprise.
I wish we could have had
we could have had a veil.
Wow.
We could have had like a secret door or like a escalator that you came up out of the ground. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
It's Tommy Campbell,
Great.
everybody.
Hello.
Glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
Did you tell me what you were thinking when you got dressed this morning? Were you like, "This is my podcast outfit"? I'm gonna be so cool.
I had like 2 clean shirts left. They're both wrinkly.
Yep.
I don't see any wrinkles.
No, I threw it in the dryer.
Okay, good.
That's a good move.
Pro move.
I had
Good
a
move.
different shirt, and then I remembered I was going to be on a video today, and I was like, black is.
Yeah, you were like,
I did think about it when I got ready.
You did?
I did think about it this morning.
I wish. I thought
I'm very
about it.
vain.
I
Yeah.
was more. No, not vain at all. You're just intentional.
Intentional.
We all need to be intentional with our faith. Hey, so we're really glad to have Tommy, because Tommy's going to be talking to us about an absolute legend in the faith. But before we get to that, we've been kind of begging and pleading you with you to be on this episode. Were you nervous to say yes? Were you like, this is going to be the best thing in the whole world? What are you expecting here?
I'm excited to talk with you guys. I hate cameras.
Huh?
So
There's one right there. It's looking right at your face.
And another.
Yeah,
Let him know in the chat right now. Say, Tommy, you're a handsome guy. You really are.
I hate cameras. I hate talking in front of cameras.
Just gas him up real good, so he's not nervous at all. No, we're really glad to have you. We started, actually, when we started talking about this podcast, this show, I was like, I think that if we do this right, this really is going to be something that is going to speak to a high schooler and a college student.
Yeah, for sure.
And so college is really Tommy's world. He's the college and young adults pastor here at Idlewild, and so we needed you. We needed you to help, maximize this podcast. We're actually launching this one as a shared collab episode.
Yep.
And so now it's on the Idlewild Young Adults YouTube channel. So our viewership is about to blow up.
Our first ever Ordinary Legends podcast on a young adult platform.
It's a new first.
Yeah, it's a new first.
It's a new first.
Yeah.
So our
Please
viewership,
go subscribe if you haven't already.
through the roof. Yeah. Some great stuff on there. So, Tommy, we are going to be talking about an absolute legend in the faith today. And I know that a lot of people are going to learn so much and they're going to be inspired. We hope that all of these stories and testimonies are an inspiration to you, that they help you think about how you could follow Jesus more passionately, how you could know God on a deeper level and follow him the way that some of these men and women we study do. But today we're talking about somebody who we said is kind of the first celebrity pastor, kind of the first preachers and sneakers guy that you could ever point to. So if Instagram was a deal back then, if Instagram was a thing, he would have been getting blown up in all
He's
kinds
verified.
of ways.
Yeah,
For
he
sure
would have been the
verified.
reason the account was made.
He definitely would have been verified. He would have been the reason for the account. And he was one of the pioneers for mass evangelism in the ways that Billy Graham and some of these other guys were. We're not talking about Billy Graham today, but today we're talking about Billy Sunday, a different Billy.
Different Billy.
The Billy before the Billy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said he was also one of the first guys to get rich as a pastor, in the way that we see a celebrity, traveling preacher get rich today, and people probably have all kinds of feelings about that. So this is going to be a fun episode. So I think that today will be a huge encouragement to help us think about the way that we take our convictions when we see things in the Bible that are truth, that are challenging, but sometimes inconvenient. Billy Sunday seemed to really stick to his guns, even when it seemed unpopular to preach certain parts of the Bible or certain realities of Scripture. So we're excited to learn. Why don't you tell us about Billy Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dale Carnegie, the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I have that book next to my bedside table right now.
That's why you have so many friends and you influence so many people.
I've
makes
only
so
read
much sense.
one chapter of it, so I'm not very influential.
I haven't
yet.
read any chapter.
So Carnegie was a contemporary of Sundays, and he wrote about Sunday. He said this: I remember Billy Sunday when he came to New York in 1917 for one of his revivals. He said his arrival was heralded months in advance. At least 20,000 prayer meetings were held in preparation for his coming. So not 20,000 people, 20,000 prayer meetings just because he was coming.
Whoa.
During his stay in New York, Billy Sunday preached to 1.25 million people, so this is in person, and nearly 100,000 sinners came forward and renounced their evil ways. So that kind of just shows the magnitude of this guy's.
You said 100,000 people came forward
100,000 people responded
in one message.
Over like a week.
crusade.
I think that might have been 2 weeks. Okay. Yeah, that might have been 2 weeks.
Oh my. Oh yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not impressed anymore.
Like, yeah, 2 Wednesday nights, 2 Sunday mornings.
Gosh.
Okay, so yeah, Billy Sunday. So came after D.L. Moody, but before Billy Graham. Born in 1862. His early life was marked by, as a lot of people probably talk about in the podcast, a lot of trials. His father died 5 weeks after he was born, fighting when he was fighting for the Union in the Civil War. That was the first of 11 close family deaths in his early childhood.
11.
Yeah, 11 in his early childhood. And eventually, by the age of 10, his family had battled so much poverty that his mother had to give him and his brother up. And so at 10 years old, he and his younger brother, they headed for an orphanage. And there's kind of a cool story. There's kind of like a movie where they meet all these like kind of kind strangers, the hotel cook who feeds them and houses them, the conductor who lets them on the train for free. So you can also make a movie out of it. But
there's not a movie yet?
There's not a movie. Maybe so
we could make a movie.
We could make a movie.
Yeah,
maybe there is a movie. I don't know, but I don't know.
No, you're the authority. You said there is no movie anywhere in the world.
I don't know.
I'm just joking.
So grew up in a couple of different orphanages, had some good Christian influence there. And then when he was 14, he left and he started working different jobs. He got some schooling. And that's when he also started playing local baseball. And so he played for a couple different local teams. One that he was playing for was in Marshalltown, Iowa. And he did really well there. He was super fast. And eventually he received word that the Chicago White Stockings wanted him to come to Chicago and audition for the team.
White Stockings?
White Stockings.
Not White Sox.
Not White Sox.
Well, okay.
But that team did not actually become the White Sox.
What?
Wow.
That team became the Chicago Cubs.
Wow.
And then later there was a second White Stockings team that became the White Sox.
So they brought them back.
This was the original White Stockings.
I think they should go back to the White Stockings.
The Chicago White Stockings is cool.
It has a better ring.
More.
Yeah.
They probably win more. Sorry. back to you. I'm so sorry. I'm just
the now Chicago Cubs. So he goes to Chicago and he's offered a tryout for the team. And basically they tell him, hey, their fastest guy was Fred Pfeffer. And they're like, hey, if you can beat him in a foot race, then you're on the team. And so Billy actually barefoot beat their fastest player in a race. And that's when he signed his contract and his professional baseball career began.
Dang. Wow.
So yeah, that's how he got his start. So he plays for Chicago for a few years. He has a pretty good career with them. And then basically what happens is one Sunday afternoon, he and his teammates were walking through downtown Chicago. And they're just, messing around, doing whatever they're doing. And they come across this thing called the Gospel Wagon, which was like a mobile evangelistic outreach. And so they're like singing songs, there's preaching, they're inviting people to church, things like that.
I'm picturing like the Bloodmobile, but
yes,
like with, I want it to be a banjo. It doesn't sound like there's a banjo. Probably more.
I don't know what the instruments were.
And a megaphone, and they're preaching the gospel.
Something. Yeah, whatever instruments.
When you say wagon, I picture more.
The wagon
like,
sounds. Yeah,
I've got a river of life flowing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
I'm asking all the wrong questions.
No, this is perfect. So they're sharing the gospel, and he hears these songs that remind him of some of the songs his mother sang to him as a kid, and that the lady who was in one of the orphanages sang to him. And so the story goes that he basically stands up right there as they're sitting on the sidewalk, and he turns to his teammates and he says, "Boys, I bid the old life goodbye." And he walks away, and his teammates are like, they're like confused.
What the heck?
Yeah, they're laughing, they're confused, they have no idea what's going on. But that really was a turning point for Sunday. He started attending the Pacific Garden Mission in Chicago, services there regularly, and I think within just a couple of weeks he trusted Christ and he was saved.
Wow.
And after that, word spread pretty quickly because it's like, hey, in Chicago, a famous baseball player now is a Christian. And so you have churches everywhere immediately asking him to share his testimony, different Christian organizations. Everyone wants Billy Sunday, the baseball player who's now a Christian, to come share his testimony. And so word spread pretty quick. And different people wanted him to come speak. The YMCA, Young Men's Christian Association, they were the most aggressive pursuer of Sunday, and they were having him speak in different cities around Chicago within months of his conversion. So immediately he has a platform, and he's going.
So he didn't go to seminary in that 2-month period. Like
No.
he just went straight from, I wasn't saved, Now I am preaching and teaching.
Yes, yeah.
All
so
over the place.
He started teaching Sunday school in his church. I think it's Jefferson Park.
Maybe got some
Presbyterian
training
Church.
there,
Yeah, but he was sharing his testimony on the platform immediately, which is good to share your testimony immediately.
Yeah,
but
yeah, of course.
Traveling already, things like that.
That's
so
big.
as his career continued in baseball, he kept playing baseball, and he was traded from a few different teams. Eventually, he was playing for the Phillies, and he got to the point where he was really feeling this call to just preach and go into ministry full time. He had the YMCA wanted him to come on staff there and kind of direct some programs and things like that. And so he's in this battle about a call to ministry, and eventually he tells God, Lord, I'm going to put in a word to the Phillies that I want them to waive me. And if they waive me, I'm going to take it as a sign that you want me to go into ministry full time. And so he puts that request in. The Phillies did not want him to, leave the team, but they did accept it, and he was released from the team. But pretty much right away, when he got that, the interesting thing is that Cincinnati's team found out they had released him, and they offered him like this huge contract. And the contract at that time was $500 a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for them it was.
Boy.
Which at working
Yeah,
at the YMCA,
huge.
he would have been making in ministry $85 a month. So we're talking
wow.
more
Yeah.
than 5 times what he would have been making
Right.
going
Wow.
in ministry. And they only wanted to sign him for 1 year. And so his family, his father-in-law, a lot of people were like, listen, like you can still go into ministry just 1 more year. You're going to be like set financially. And he wrestles through it. He prays. And then he just senses that the Lord wanted him to go straight into ministry, and that was a distraction. So he goes into ministry. Basically, he started off at the YMCA. Then he was an assistant to J. Wilbur Chapman, who was one of D.L. Moody's disciples, traveled with Chapman. Chapman eventually goes into pastoral ministry. Billy Sunday's out of a job. He's not really the preacher at this point. He's kind of the assistant. And he and his wife, Nell, pray. And a couple weeks later, they just start getting calls for events, speaking engagements. And from then on, it's kind of history. So he just takes them and goes and goes and goes, starting in smaller towns and then in bigger cities. And Sunday had this real, when he was with Chapman's, when he kind of found his voice and his niche as a preacher, I think. And he has this real unique kind of bombastic, energetic sermon delivery. There's a couple, you can find small clips of him on YouTube. There's not much video from then. I
don't want you to like blast anybody if it's negative, and if you can't think of anybody, that's okay. But can you think of like a modern day example?
Oh man,
is bombastic's a good thing, or is
no,
just
bombastic? No, bombastic
was
was the wrong word actually. I think just like very energetic, very like. I mean, you see like this motion over and over. It's like
really
very strong. Yeah. So, but he was energetic, but he also used his athletic ability in his preaching. So I mean, he's like jumping up on like the table or standing up on the pulpit,
tell an
illustration. Yeah, tell an illustration, and he's like sliding on a stage as if he's sliding in the
I'm
home plate.
gonna do it, Spencer.
All kinds of stuff. So
it was Mike Todd. You're talking about Mike Todd right now. Is basically what I'm describing.
Yeah, kind of, but no spit or anything.
So he was not spitting in people's eyes. He was breakdancing and rapping.
Yeah, no, not quite.
But Billy Sunday would have.
But if he was here today, would he have? That's the
totally
question.
Mike Todd.
No.
Sorry, moving on.
So that gains the attention of a lot of people. Like super strong, preached super strong. We maybe talk a little bit about this against alcohol. He had a lot of influence in the Prohibition movement, and so he got a lot of attention. I mean, he held people's attention. So eventually, by 1908, the Sundays kind of get to this point in their life where there's steady income from ministry. They're comfortable. The family's provided for. And, the spirit of times and of the times in America at that point, I mean, you have a lot of financial prosperity. It's kind of this season of hustle where everyone's like bigger. We're building big cities. We're growing businesses. And the Sundays were definitely
the American dream.
Yeah, it's the American dream. So the Sundays were definitely a product of their time. So they got to this point where they were like, hey, we can kind of stay steady in ministry, or we can just like go for it.
Pedal to the metal.
And they went pedal to the metal. And so his wife started working with him full time. She was really the brains and the management behind his ministry. And from that time on, they start filling up his schedule like crazy, bigger and bigger cities, traveling further away to preach, things like that. And he just gets a lot of attention. So he's preaching everywhere at this point. His popularity is growing. People know about him. And basically, this is where the money starts to come in because he's preaching in bigger places, which means there's more people, which means there's more offerings. And so just kind of for point of reference, between 1908 and 1920, which was kind of the prime of his career, he made over $1 million, which, that's 13 years. So that would have been more than 70 times the income of the average U.S. worker during those 13 years. So that's like a preacher who today would make about $1.2 million a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So just from ministry, just from preaching.
That's a couple dollars more than we make. Just a couple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah. For sure. That's crazy. Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, $1.2 million a year he's making from offerings. And then, as I mentioned earlier, during his 1917 revival in New York, which was kind of like the peak, about 100,000 people come forward. And he had preached over to over 100 million people by the end of his career in 1935. So he was constantly headlining New York Times, magazines, periodicals, things like that. And basically, Sunday at this point, he's more than just a preacher that's well known. Like D.L. Moody was a preacher who was well known, but he's pretty much a celebrity, and he's become part of the social elite. Mm-hmm. So all Hollywood celebrities, wealthy businessmen. He was friends with Rockefeller. There's a point where he had even borrowed Rockefeller's shirt. And there was a news story about it. So he has press coverage. And then now the newspapers aren't just reporting on kind of what's happening. They're asking the questions like, hey, how much more can Billy Sunday raise financially? Man, how many more crowds can he draw? So there's this pressure coming from secular press to just see how much more he can do. And so they make a lot of money. They purchase, multiple homes. They have multiple luxury vehicles. They have, the best clothes. And he was pristine everywhere he went with his clothes. And so they were very clearly no longer part of the lower or even middle class. I mean, they were celebrities. They were up there with everyone else. So, yeah, he gained prominence even in the political sphere. He, was active and, praying for the House of Representatives. He had done. And in 1920, there was even talk of him becoming a Republican nominee for president, but it never amounted to anything. So that was kind of his level of influence. But the thing with Sunday is that as his influence and his wealth grew, on the personal side of things, his family really struggled. And so money became a source of contention in his marriage between him and his wife, Nell.
You said he's married. Do you know how many kids he had at the time? Four. Gotcha.
So he had 4. He had a daughter and 3 sons. His daughter turned out pretty good, but his sons also really struggled. So they adopted kind of their parents' materialism. And so one of his sons had kind of a nasty divorce from his wife, and there were a lot of lawsuits against him because of that divorce. Another son who traveled with him as a piano player ended up going to jail, was known for drinking and promiscuity. Man. And so you see some, really hurts from the families. His wife, Nell, because of just the pressure of the criticism he faced for the money or even just for sound doctrine, he faced a lot of criticism. But she ended up hospitalized many times just for stress. And so basically what happens is they're unable to kind of sustain their lifestyle because the lawsuits against his son, they have a lot of wayward children and grandchildren that they're having to give money to in order to just keep on their feet. And so the Sundays, kind of by the end of his career, they lose pretty much all of their wealth.
Wow.
So everything that they built, they end up losing. They still have their homes and
but they're not able to live that kind of lifestyle.
No, yeah. Anymore. So eventually they do slow down. He stops preaching in bigger cities, the crowds kind of die down, the hype dies down a little bit, and he's spending time with normal people again. So eventually by 1935, his doctor advised him, he's like, you got to stop preaching. You got to take a rest because this is too much of a toll on you. And
he's not old at that point, right?
1935, 62. So he's he's in his 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking he was still in his 40s, 50s. My bad.
Oh no, that's 70s. Yeah, I guess it's 70s.
Oh yeah, so he's up there. Okay.
Yeah, so he's older. But his doctor's like, you got to slow down. You got to stop preaching. And then later in October that year, his former music leader, who was at a church, asked him last minute to come preach a service. And his wife was like, don't go. You can't put any more stress on your body. The doctor's like, don't go. You can't be doing this anymore. And he was like, nope, I'm going. And so he goes, he preaches that final service. And then later that week, he passes away of a heart attack with his wife by his side. And that's basically the life of Billy Sunday.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's kind of ends on a downward note for sure.
Yeah.
And that I think maybe sets it apart from some of the other stories that we've talked about. Obviously, so with John and Betty Stam, they were martyred, but I think that doesn't seem like that's just not a self-inflicted problem like we see with Billy Sunday. It seems like there's a lot that we can learn from the good things that he did, but also some things to learn about what not to do, how that power, responsibility, wealth, fame can be unhelpful at best. So I've got a lot of questions. I'm sure Spencer's got some thoughts.
I've got loads of questions.
Oh my gosh, your phone is like blowing up. You got so much there with your notes, and I've just been jotting down all kinds of questions here. So thank you so much for sharing, Tommy. Could I ask, I want to maybe even just open up some discussion here, but ask first, like, why do you think people freak out in culture when somebody famous gets saved? Because we see that, a baseball player got saved and they're like, oh my goodness, one of the, was it the White Sox at the time, or still the Cubs? The White Stockings. Oh my goodness, a White Stockings player, pro baseball player got saved. And I as soon as you were talking about that, I was like, we do that all the time. I think of like not too long ago when we were like, oh my goodness, Justin Bieber's a Christian now. He got baptized. Oh my gosh, I think Russell Wilson was like making a bunch of statements about his faith. And then,
was he really?
I haven't followed it too closely, but I think he was making a bunch of other kind of statements that seemed pretty un-Christ-like. Maybe Kanye is probably one of the people that comes to mind, not an athlete, but a celebrity. And we were like, yeah, he's a Christian now. And then we're like, oh man, now he's a racist now. That's maybe he's not with us after all. And then you're compassionate for the mental health situation that he's clearly in, but we go back and forth real fast on those kind of things. Why do you think we like lose it when somebody famous gets saved? You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is like righteous. Like there's a potential for someone who has a lot of influence to now use their platform to influence others, with the gospel and for Christ. And so I think like that's a good desire, but I think we can kind of get lost in that sometimes. Like, hey, if only XYZ would get saved, man, then we would really see change happen when like the Lord does amazing things through people who aren't celebrities.
Ordinary legends.
Ordinary people. Yeah. So,
man. So Billy wasn't actually very ordinary. We might actually just have to cut this episode now.
That's Dang true, it. Actually.
No, I'm joking. No, he was very far from God. So without a doubt, he fits the bill. Just barely. But I'm joking. So I think about that too. I think sometimes we're like, oh man, we finally got one. We got somebody in Hollywood, or we got somebody in the popular sphere of influence. A YouTuber. Like I can think of 3 or 4 people that are prominent YouTubers or podcasters, thought leaders in some way, shape, or form that, if they even mention Jesus or Christianity, people get excited. They're like, ooh, Joe Rogan, he's almost a Christian. I can tell he's thinking about it. And it's like, he also believes in mushrooms and aliens. Like let's not get too carried away. Of course we want him to follow Jesus, but I think we see, that's a great example, what could happen if a guy like that starts preaching the gospel to however many millions and hundreds of millions of people that listen to his show. But like you said, I mean, God uses very ordinary people. Oh goodness, what's the reference? Maybe one of you guys knows it. I think maybe 2 Corinthians 11 or 12, where Paul says God uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. No, I think it's 1 Corinthians.
1 Corinthians 1.
1 Corinthians 1?
Yeah.
Oh, what a guy. Got it. So thank you for catching that. He says, God uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. Sometimes he uses kings and he uses pro baseball players, but he's definitely not limited to that. I think what I was hearing is it sounds like God did use his fame.
Yeah.
He did leverage that notoriety. But would you say like the problem maybe is that he went too fast, that he got that fame and popularity so fast that all that pressure started to catch up?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. Obviously, you see people all the time who are platformed before they maybe have the foundation and the maturity to sustain that level of a platform. I think one of the things with Sunday is there really wasn't a lot of like accountability in his life. So when you look at the way that his evangelistic ministry operated, like he and his wife were at the top and everyone else was their employee. And there were times when maybe even some concerns were brought up by different people in his organization, and it was just kind of dismissed as, disloyalty. And so that's very different from like a Billy Graham, who is like, hey, I need people speaking into my life. I need a lot of accountability. I'm going to take a set salary and nothing more than that. That was not the case with Sunday. It was, hey, we're kind of in charge. We're bringing in the money, and we're going to kind of do what we want. So there also wasn't a lot of accountability in his life.
That's a pattern that I think you see with a lot of different people who've unfortunately fallen. I mean, we think of Ravi Zacharias, and I don't mention these people to trample on their names or just bring up more unfortunate feelings, certainly for their family, but we can learn from that mistake. How the mighty fall, so to speak. And yeah, we all need accountability in our lives. We all need people who are willing to call us out, and we don't want to become insulated. Maybe some of you guys listening to this, you're the captain of a football team, or you're a pastor's kid, or you've got some influence, and people listen to what you have to say, but you need people who will tell you the truth. So that was something that stood out to me. Spencer, I don't want to like co-opt all of the questions. If you've got something that you were like, feel free.
Yeah,
because I could just keep on going.
Yeah, I mean, so you were talking a little bit about his his baseball career reflected a little bit into a lot of it into his preaching career, his evangelism career. I know you said he was jumping on tables. What are some other things maybe that he was doing that his past, before his salvation, was actually influencing his, spread of the gospel?
You're saying like he preached like that because he didn't learn to preach in a seminary. He
right.
To preach.
Yeah.
He was just being a baseball player.
How did his past actually like help?
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's the name recognition. There's the athleticism. So it said that he actually had a personal trainer who traveled with him and would give like massages and stuff afterwards, because the way he preached was so taxing on his body from
really?
the, like athletic type stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's.
I think we need to get that in the budget this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Pastor Edgar, if you're watching this, Zach and I,
we need
both
ice
love
baths.
Personal trainers, ice baths, saunas,
massage.
It would really help us.
It's for the gospel.
Yeah,
Pastor Edgar.
It's for the gospel. I think you see a lot of his kind of baseball, color his preaching. He was a big storyteller, so a lot of vivid stories, like sports references and imagery and things like that. He was a master of humor.
Yeah.
And so he was very witty, really funny. He always had people laughing.
Yeah.
I've had this thought. It doesn't sound like this is the case with Billy Sunday, but when you talked about his name recognition, I think there's a lot of people who would listen to specific famous people talk for an hour, even if they're not that good at communicating. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've ever like gone to hear like, oh, so-and-so is speaking, and you go and listen and you're hooked. But if you really think critically, you're like, this isn't that good of a presentation. Like they're not that good of a communicator, but because of who it is, you're just hooked.
Yeah.
So, but it sounds like he had the name recognition.
He had
and
both. Yeah.
He had the charisma and the storytelling ability. That's definitely something.
Yeah.
I was just thinking as we think about like these famous people who start getting saved and then sharing their faith, we can, at least in this world of like YouTube and tabloids and Instagram stories and Reddit posts, we can all share our opinions really freely in the comment section. I think it's really important for us to be very gracious and patient with new believers. I just mentioned how we kind of flip-flop on people when there's a real obvious reason, but I remember like Justin Bieber made a profession of faith, and then like a week later he had a lyric in one of his songs that came out and people were like, I knew it, he wasn't really a Christian. And that's between him and the Lord. I don't really follow Justin Bieber's life very much, but I was like, he's been saved for like 5 minutes. There's some people who've been following Jesus for years, and there's sins that they've never removed from their lives. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to be like really patient, but at least at the beginning, was there a lot of transformation in his life as far as most people write about or
for sure. There was as a professional baseball player, he was used to like drinking, getting drunk was a big thing, and kind of just living that kind of life. Immediately he just cut out anything that had to do with his old way of living. and he was like in church all the time. I mean, he was pretty committed right away. So when he got up and he was like, "Hey, I'm saying goodbye," he meant it. So there's very radical transformation
of repentance and
Yeah,
transformation.
for sure.
So, oh gosh, so I'm trying to pick which rabbit trail to go down next. The one thing that stood out to me, I mean, so he's the first guy to get rich. He's the first guy to make a lot of money, and I'll just be honest. I think there's a lot of people who part of the appeal in being a preacher or a pastor or an evangelist, even being like a YouTube Christianity guy, the appeal is the platform. And look how many followers they have. Look, and there's virtue and good reasonings mixed in there too. They're like, but I could really help people, and they would all be listening and looking at me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so it goes back and forth. But I think there's a lot of people that is some of the draw. I just couldn't help but notice it sounded like the way you were explaining it, they didn't really at the beginning like seek out speaking opportunity. It seemed like they were coming fairly steady. Like he probably could have lived very comfortably just taking the invitations as they came. And it was later that they chose to like, let's capitalize on this. Let's, this could be a full-time gig and a whole ministry. But it does seem like they were going to be pretty busy even if they hadn't like got organized and created a ministry. Was I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. And I think when it comes to like the money thing, obviously he received a lot of criticism in the press during his ministry because of the money stuff, which I think, a lot of which was probably valid.
Yeah,
but
probably that's pretty fair.
When you think about it, like if you think about his past, like this is someone who grew up in absolute poverty and had made it all the way to be a professional baseball player. And he was making good money that he had never made before, and then gets saved, feels a call to ministry, and gives all of that up, including the very real financial parts of it, to follow Christ and go to ministry.
I just tried to look it up with ChatGPT, which never makes mistakes, of course. But it's from what you were saying, $500 a month, you said?
Yeah, $500.
It was estimating that like today that'd be somewhere around $180,000 a year, which even back then, like pro sports players they didn't have a $36 million contract,
right?
Or the equivalent back then. That was very good money.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of pointing out, like he gave up money.
Yeah, he gave up a lot to go into ministry.
Yeah.
And then ended up making a lot more money in ministry than he would have in baseball.
Right.
But I think that's important to note about him. Like, obviously there's some context to his life that shows that it kind of informs why certain things probably unrolled the way they did.
Yeah. So it's not like he got saved and was like, you know what, I could make a lot of money doing this.
Yeah.
Some of that came naturally. But I think I just wanted to point out too, there's a lot of people. We talked about this with Leonard Ravenhill too, how like he was basically a traveling evangelist. He was pushing like a pop-up tent around England, doing sermons in small towns and villages, not making a lot of money and truly sweating for the work. Like, I think a lot of times people like we're promoting ourselves and we're like, who would like me to come and preach at their summer camp? Who would like me to come and, put out a class or, build a course or, subscribe to my Patreon or whatever, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, like, those are things you can do those things. But what just strikes me is like, he didn't like build the 501c3 and then say, who would like me to preach? Like the demand was already there.
Yeah, for sure.
People recognized a gifting, a calling, an anointing, if you will, that God was using him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, I should respond to this.
Yeah.
And sometimes we try to do it the other way around. Like there's no real evidence that we're particularly gifted or that God is calling us to that. We don't have a lot of experience doing it, but we're like, not just in the Christian world, but sometimes we're like, I'm an entrepreneur. Maybe you want to be, but
if I call myself an entrepreneur, it'll eventually.
What have you entrepreneured so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of that, but I don't know if you guys see any of that as well.
I think I see that as well. I think there's also like a second side to it, being that some people are gifted and they've had the training and they've are ready to go, but they're waiting for the opportunity, and they're never actually taking that first step. I feel like there is some sort of a step out, a step in uncomfortability. Like he had that that steady income of people wanting him to preach, or that steady want. But he said, let's take a next step, you know? And I even had a question with that for like that passion, because he had passion, right? He had passion to share. Do you think that passion almost started to outweigh? Do you think it was the passion to save, and then maybe money came in and was trying to fight for the throne?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that that's one that I have a
hard
good
to judge
answer
hard,
to. Yeah,
like,
it's
from what you can tell. Yeah,
certainly there was a battle with materialism.
Right.
And certainly there was, I mean, there's a lot that I didn't talk about just him being a man of prayer and spirit-filled and like just genuine gospel motivation. So there was a mix, and I don't know where that line was or if one overtook the other at some point.
Yeah.
Because they were definitely both there.
Yeah, because the press was probably like the preacher who loves money, right?
Oh, yeah, for
Preachers
sure.
in sneakers. He's on every single account there
for
is,
sure.
right? But I wonder where the heart is.
Well, you talk about like that first step. People are waiting for that first step. I wonder if there's a lot of times where people they are willing to take a first step so long as it comes with an honorarium or a full-time job or
security.
I mean, safety and security, like especially if somebody's in their 20s and they're trying to provide for a family, like you want to know that you're being a good steward of the time and the gifts that God's given you. I understand that, but especially like if we're talking to a lot of high schoolers and college age students, middle schoolers as well. Like somebody said to me one time, they're like, "Oh, that guy's really gifted. He's really talented. He's got so much charisma and so much ability, natural talent, but he needs to mop the floor first." And he didn't mean it like as let me put that guy down, help him remember, he's got to pay his dues, put him in his place. He was like, no, like you got to mop the floor. You've got to put in the work and develop the work ethic and the humility that says, I'm willing to serve even when there's no recognition and there's no crowd gathering to celebrate me or to clap when I sing or preach or do whatever it is. And I think there's a lot of people who are like, I'm ready to be the traveling evangelist, but they are not yet ready to say, I will volunteer to pray in my Sunday school class every week. I will take prayer requests. I will study and teach one lesson to 6 people in my class. And that's what faithfulness looks like. So what was like your first step into ministry, Tommy? It's probably like, you're like, how do you define first step? But
so my first role serving in ministry, I was at a church where I'd interned as a pastoral intern. I was kind of being discipled by the pastors, but a big part of my role, what I actually got paid to do, was cleaning and maintenance and cutting the grass and cleaning the toilets and all that kind of stuff. So like it was kind of a balance.
You mopped the floor. You literally mopped the floor.
Oh no, for sure.
Let's go.
So it's like, it was great because I did have opportunities to preach and to teach and to learn ministry and work with pastors, but there was also just a lot of that.
So this kind of mundane is not.
Yeah, serving.
Yeah.
Which is important.
That's really important.
Yeah.
I think we should make that a part of everything we do. We're like, hey, you want to teach? Fantastic. There's a mop. There's a broom. And because I think that teaches you humility. You're a very humble guy, Tommy. When it says in Exodus or Deuteronomy that
I love it when people tell me that.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you. When it says that Moses was the most humble guy that had ever lived, that was because you hadn't been born yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot for us to learn there. Oh my goodness. Where are we going
real quick, we never get past that either. That's the thing too. It's like, that's not just how we start, is like, we have the serving and then we get the platform, but like that should be, and I think if you I look at you and we look at even our other pastors here, it's like that serving is still there day in and day out. Even when there is maybe a platform as well. So that's, sorry.
Actually, it's kind of awkward. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Spencer else would be
I saw Pastor Josiah with a mop yesterday. I didn't see Zach with one.
I'm joking. I used to think when I was a kid, my dad pastored a church and it was a church plant, so we did the set up and tear down thing. And in my mind, I was like, man, one day we're going to have our own building. And we're going to be like some of those big churches. Big churches was anybody bigger than our church. And I was real insecure and petty about it. And I was like, we're going to have people that help set up chairs for us. We're going to have to do all this. And now I've only ever worked in 2 churches that at the time I definitely would have called mega churches. And I've stacked way more chairs. I probably stacked 300 chairs last night. That's maybe a bit of exaggeration, but if you're in it because you are you love serving people and you love people, then you'll be able to make it. But if you're only in it for the applause, you're going to get bored so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad you pointed that out. It's definitely something you got to keep doing. So let me ask this question. You said that he was really good friends with celebrities. You even said the Rockefellers. Like, so Hollywood. I was just wondering, we don't have to spend too much time here if this isn't really the point, but do you think that a faithful pastor who's really preaching the gospel of Jesus could do that in 2025? Would they be friends with people in Hollywood, with the elites, with the Rockefellers, or I don't know who the equivalent is, Elon Musk, you know? Yeah. Or are we at a different place in culture today? What do you think?
I mean, I think that, like, could you still be faithful and also do that? I think so. I
guess. Well, like, would the culture
would the culture allow it?
Yeah. Would the culture want to be friends with a Billy Sunday today? If the answer is just, I don't know, we can just move on real fast. I'm sorry.
The answer is, I don't know. I don't want to ever say no to anything. So I'm sure that there's a world in which that
can
could
do
happen.
anything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. But it would be more unlikely than likely, though, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, if you listen to Billy Sunday's preaching, and you wouldn't get any reception, I don't think, from a lot of
he'd step on some toes.
Today.
You think?
I mean, he'd step on toes for sure.
Yeah.
Now the spirit still move as it did back then, I'm sure, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, like, in the early 1900s, right? Like 1915, 20. I think there were people who loved Jesus and people who didn't love Jesus, but I think it was still like, it was culturally advantageous to be associated with good Christian moral people, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So today, I think, like, it is not culturally advantageous to be associated with Jesus. So if you're in Hollywood trying to make it and people find out that you have views about abortion that are Christian, if you have views about same-sex marriage or something like that, or some of these morally challenging hot topic issues, I think there'd be a lot of people would be like, we don't want you in our movie.
Yeah.
You're not invited to our parties, you know? But I'm sure that was still a thing back then, but I was just kind of wondering. It's more of a curiosity than anything. I think just Jesus says, hey, remember when the world hates you, that they hated me first. And if the world never, ever hates me and there's nothing that I do that ever steps on people's toes, it kind of makes me nervous that I'm not really representing Jesus. So that was one question. Okay, we got to talk about the preachers and sneakers. We got to talk about his fashion. Do you have any examples? Like what kind of stuff was he wearing? I don't know if Armani was a thing back then.
Yeah, no, I don't know, like, brands and stuff, like what was a thing back then, but he was meticulous about his personal appearance. Like, everything had to be exactly right, like fresh, pressed clothes, all this kind of stuff. I mean, when the money started coming in, they were buying whatever the standard was for celebrities. That's what they were wearing. So what celebrities were driving, what they were wearing, that was their standard. So I don't know in that context, but if you would equate it to today, yeah, I mean.
So it would have been Armani. It would have been, I don't know, I'm running out of.
What is it, like
Supreme and stuff like that?
He's got the dunks. He's got the full linen suit. Like he's got it all, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Was that helpful? Was that unhelpful to his ministry then? And let's talk about even the some of those signs of affluence today. I'll share like an extreme example just real quick. I knew some people who their dad was a pastor. And they were a part of a church that was really, really stringent on money to an extreme. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing something quite like this. They basically wanted their pastor to be in poverty. They were not in a poor community. There were a few hundred people that went to that church, but somebody had donated the pastor like a 15-year-old Cadillac, not like a real nice car, not a Rolls Royce, and it was about 15 years old, and they made him get rid of it. Because they said, no, that's a sign of affluence, and you're just too rich, and we don't think that pastors are supposed to drive that kind of thing. They actually had problems during the winter. They couldn't heat their home because the utility bills were too high, and so they were like not literally freezing, but they were very uncomfortable in their house. They were like bundled up wearing 3 sweaters to go to bed at night their elders and deacons and things like that. They just decided, no, this is your salary, and you are not allowed to make more than that. We make more than that, but you're not allowed to. So that's
which is highly unbiblical.
Highly unbiblical. Yeah.
Don't muzzle the ox while it's treading grain. I mean,
yeah.
The Bible speaks very clearly that elders and those who teach and lead in the church should be compensated for the hard work they put in. Not in excess, but
maybe not Billy Sunday, but maybe not.
Oh yeah,
intentional poverty when poverty is totally avoidable. Yeah.
In an ideal world, I think the pastor should be able to live generally somewhere around the average of their congregation. So like whatever the average normal life looks like in that context, wherever you are in the world, the pastor I think should be able to.
Right. So back in that day, like he really was a trailblazer of sorts with being a celebrity, making a lot of money, and becoming rich as a pastor. Right. Mm-hmm. But what about like just mega churches in general? What about like churches in America? We go to a pretty big church, but there are churches in America way bigger than us, like 16, 20,000 people in the same place on a Sunday.
Right.
Was that a thing back then, or not quite so much yet?
Oh, that's a good question. I might not have an answer for that. So he was just an evangelist. So they were building like tents and then wooden tabernacles to meet in.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know with like churches at that time.
But as best I understand, I don't think most churches we weren't seeing that kind of megachurch until like the 70s or 80s maybe.
Yeah,
as best I understand. Yeah. I mean, there were probably really big churches.
Yeah.
Maybe some churches as big as Idlewild, but not like Joel Houston's church. Not Joel Houston. Sure. What's the other one?
Joel Osteen.
Joel Osteen.
In Houston.
Yeah. Joel Houston is in Sydney, Australia, or something like that. Different Joel.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw any churches like that. That was like an amphitheater or a stadium that had been taken over. So the reason I want to talk about it is when it comes to money and finances and things like that, I think sometimes we see people who are maybe not making $1.3 million a year as a pastor, but they're living way more comfortable than any other pastor we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder if like some of it is just the nature of the times. Like when you look at a pastor who's leading a church with 20,000 members, there's a huge responsibility on him. Like he is a CEO. He's obviously a shepherd and a pastor and a preacher and teacher, but he's got to be a full-time counselor. He's got to help a staff of hundreds of people be effective in ministry. Like that's not the kind of thing that God calls just anybody to do. And so I do think I'm comfortable with somebody like that making a few $100,000 a year.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're leading 20,000 people faithfully with the depth of leadership that ministry requires, you really shouldn't, in personal opinion, you really shouldn't have to be worrying about how you're going to pay the next bill. Yeah. Your wife should be able to stay home. I mean, I think that's reasonable for someone who's leading that many people.
I think so too. And I think too, sometimes we don't understand like how rich some of these guys actually are. So I don't know any of these guys that, show up on Preachers and Sneakers every so often. I don't even know if that account is still really active, but there was a lot of discussion a few years ago. Like, I can't believe he's wearing a $200 pair of shoes or a $400 pair of shoes even. And at the same time, I'm thinking there are pastors all around the world who are wearing $500 suits, but we don't think anything of it because it's not as much of an attention grabber.
Right.
But hypothetical situation. Just want to toss this out here. If a pastor is ministering to 15 or 20,000 people and he is working, 365 days a year, he's overseeing all these employees, and then he's got book sales on top of all that, it is just very, very realistic that he could be tithing, hypothetically, 50% of his income, and he is still obnoxiously wealthy by our standards.
For sure.
So then we're like, well, we say it's about the heart, but I think sometimes we're actually just looking for people to be a certain level of wealthy that we're comfortable with. So I don't know. I was looking at some of that. I was like, man, some of these guys have been writing books left and right.
Yeah.
Selling 30, 40,000
social media
copies.
Stuff. Like,
yeah.
Even, I don't know if pastors have brand deals, but
I
feel like in the Christian
there's probably one that
do. Yeah,
probably some that does.
I think some might.
I'm not trying to say like lay off all this. I think a lot of it is very valid. But I think sometimes it is more complicated than we think. Like they are more sacrificial in a sense proportionately than we realize. But I don't know. I'm more just saying that and just seeing what you guys think. I'm not asking for a specific answer or question.
Yeah. Billy Sunday did have a biography written about him.
He did?
Yeah, during his time.
That was his
and
book
it became
deal.
a he had a book
royalties.
Deal, so, and there actually became a point of contention about the money and the guy who wrote it not getting paid and stuff. But
oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a bit of a pattern. I do think like pastors have to be above reproach, whether you're making $30,000 a year or $3 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
People should never be saying, "I didn't get my money." Like, you know what I mean? Like, if a guy writes a book for you, if a guy, builds a building for you as a pastor, I think you've got to be able to say, "I did everything above reproach. I've got the full paper trail. He did get paid." You know what I mean? I think that's one of the qualifications for an elder. So
yeah. Well, Zach and Tommy, as we start to wrap up, what is something?
No, really?
Someone.
This is the longest episode?
This is the longest episode.
Oh, man.
You did it.
I talked a long time. I talked a long time.
Yeah,
if you're still listening at this point.
Yeah, if you're still listening, what is something a student or college student, so like a high school, middle school, college student, even parents, what can they take away or what should they not take away from Billy Sunday's life? Maybe a pro or a con, maybe something most influential for you. Yeah,
I would say, I think the big pro is like, make sacrifices by faith for the gospel and trust God to provide. So like this was somebody who had rags to riches story, like had everything, career, baseball mapped out for him, sensed the calling of God on his life to proclaim the gospel full time. And he had to take a sacrifice by faith. He had no idea that he was going to end up plenty provided for over the course of his life. So, I mean, the Lord will, not like that. Probably for most of us, and it's probably better for most of us that we're not right now.
Walk away from baseball.
Most of our hearts that we're
You too can be a millionaire.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, take steps of faith and trust God to provide. That's one big thing. I mean, he was unashamed about his convictions about the gospel. He faced a lot of criticism for that, so I think that's another thing. And yeah, I think the accountability piece is just a big thing. Like have people in your life who can check you and correct you, who can maybe recognize unhealthy patterns and help steer you back in the right direction. You're saying have accountability because Billy Sunday really didn't have the accountability, and he could have had even more, evangelism, going out and preaching for sure, maybe, or at least not some of the downfalls that he had there been more accountability. Right. Yeah. Living to that above reproach. So. Yeah, I do wish we didn't quite have to nuance his story quite so much. You know what I mean? I wish it more just spoke for itself, and seems like without a doubt somebody that God used in a powerful way. And is not somebody that perhaps was totally disqualified from ministry, or somebody that we really view as a casualty of ministry. Yeah. But somebody that made some mistakes or had some judgment errors that we don't want to get that close. Yeah. We want to aim for faithfulness. There's so much that we can learn from here, and you've given us a few thousand words to chew on. So if this episode has been an encouragement to you, or if any of these episodes have been inspirational to you, please let us know. Send us an email at students@idlewild.org. Share this episode with another person. Share it to your story. Recommend it to somebody. Word of mouth is really what's going to help the most. But even when you comment and and share it and things like this, it tells the algorithm, hey, there's something helpful here, and it helps more people see and hear what we're sharing here. And we really do hope that these stories help you to see how God might be calling you to the next step in faithfulness to him, and how you don't have to be anybody all that special. You don't have to have all of the giftings, but if you will just be obedient to what God calls you to do, you could be used in a legendary way. So thank you so much. We'll see you next time. See y'all later.